So I kind of pushed on, and I went past one of the guys, Arthur A. Will. Then I didn't really sum up all what I was doing. So Arthur A. Will, he's mayor from Louisville from 1925 to 1927. He's in there for 2 years. He was the one that was running against a Democrat, William T. Baker. William T. Baker is Ku Klux Klan. Then Joseph T. O'Neill was put in there to run against Arthur A. Will, and Arthur A. Will barely fucking wins. He still barely wins. Now, he was removed from office by the Kentucky Court of Appeals in 1927 after a lawsuit from the Democrats successfully challenged the election results. So just like Paul C. Barth, Arthur A. Will was also removed from office for a fraudulent election. So it wasn't just Paul C. Barth that did it. It was the GOP. It was a fucking Republican, Arthur A. Will. And so this actually brings up two guys I had written down, Charles Sapp and Chesley Searcy. They were GOP bosses. Charles Sapp and Chesley Searcy. And this is also the second time the Kentucky Court of Appeals has undone the election. So the Kentucky Court of Appeals undid Paul C. Barth's election, and Kentucky Court of Appeals had undone Arthur A. Will's election. I don't know why. I don't know why they say that the election was fraudulent. I don't know how you can fucking prove that. Eventually, Arthur A. Will dies of pneumonia, and nobody ever hears about him. So that's his legacy. That's his namesake. Arthur A. Will. Arthur A. Will, just like Paul C. Barth, they were challenged. Their legitimacy was challenged, and the Kentucky Court of Appeals held it up, and then they were booted out of office for election fraud. So don't fucking steal the election, right? Don't, if you don't want to get kicked out of office, don't steal the election. And you know, that's significant for many reasons. I don't know exactly why. I think that would be important to find out specifically. But again, the legacy is that they got impeached for a fraudulent election. They got removed. They got kicked out by the Kentucky Court of Appeals in 1927 after that lawsuit. And then he dies 13 years later of pneumonia. So that's the olden days. That's a lot of bad shit, a lot of bad things that was happening. You don't want the bad shit to happen, but you really want to highlight the goods. So you don't want Confederates, you don't want any of these white supremacists, these rich corporate fucking owned pieces of shit. You want some working class person or somebody that resonates with the working classes. Someone who fights for the poor. Someone who fights the landlords, you know, someone who stands up to the bosses or the bridges. I mean, there's going to be a toll bridge in Louisville. What the fuck? So if I go to Indiana, I got to pay $2 on top of the fucking gas and the car money and everything else just to go to Indiana. And why would I go over the toll road? Why not go after a different road? And why even go to Indiana in the first place? Fuck the toll. I don't want to pay no fucking toll. And he also stood up to the textbook monopoly like William Justice Goebel. So we need more people like William Justice Goebel. We need more people like Andrew Brodus, who desegregated the public parks in the school system, or pools, in 1955. So, and also in the very beginning, you know, you had a lot of Unitarians, so there was not the fucking party politics that we see today. So we want, you know, we want better. We want better. We see a long history of corruption. We see a long history of unremarkableness out of Louisville Mayors. None of them are really known, you know, anywhere for anything. Not even Louisvillians know their mayors. So, you know, we need to up our game, well, what we expect out of our mayors. Before you have all this, right? Now you have now we have the present day mayors. And so I want to pick the first 5, and then that kind of led me from one to the next. And now I'm going to the last 5, okay? So I did the first 5, a couple other ones. I hammered on fucking John Henry Whalen, that fucking bitch, fucking motherfucker. So John Henry Whalen, he's a piece of shit, got 4 fucking mayors elected and shit, but that's the past. We're talking about today. We're talking about now. So what do we got now? What are we looking at? We have Harvey I. Sloan. He was in, you know, had one position. Then you have William B. Stansbury, then you have Harvey I. Sloan again, and then you have Jerry Abramson, and then you have David L. Armstrong, and then you have Jerry Abramson again, and then you have Greg Fisher. So you got 2 non-consecutive terms, Harvey I. Sloan, Jerry Abramson. And those are the 5 that were 5 mayors of Louisville, the last 5 mayors of Louisville, who we're going to talk about, and since it's in the modern era, they're the best examples that we have besides one administration. You compare one administration to another administration. I was in Seneca High School observing, and I saw that they're doing, a lot of this really intelligent work about how to analyze the 1850s or the 1870s, just some fucking random decade, arbitrary decade, and they did all this intelligent, really smart work, but do use those same tactics for the modern era, use the same tactics for the last 20, 30 years. What do we got? Okay, have we seen a difference? Is there any more remarkable, remarkable people, charismatic people? Are they producing things? Are they getting things accomplished? Shit runs, right? There's bus systems, there's sewer systems, there's roads. It's working, right? It's running. That doesn't necessarily it's working well, but it's working, right? So they may be able to balance the budget, pay the bills, get all the day-to-day in there, but not really anything that goes above and beyond what the call of duty is. William Brown Stansbury. So he's an American lawyer and a politician who held the office of mayor of Louisville from 1977 to 1982, the year I was born. So this man is mayor the year I was born, or he gets out when I'm born. So right before I was born, William B. Stansbury is the mayor of Louisville. William B. Stansbury, he's a pilot in World War II for the Army Air Corps in the 457th Bomb Group. Before mayor, he had served 2 terms, Louisville Board of Aldermen. William B. Stansbury became unpopular during a firefighter strike in 1978 and was the object of an impeachment attempt in 1917. So, William B. Stansbury, I don't know what the firefighters dispute was about. It was 1978. It was a strike by the firefighters, right? The firefighters are striking, and there's some fucking thing that's going on down with that. But then they try to impeach him. So he actually stood up to the impeachment. He didn't go down like fucking Philip Tompert. Philip Tompert was impeached and then eventually got reinstated for bribery, right? That's what they said. And then you also had 2 other ones that got kicked out. So William B. Stansbury almost became a Paul C. Barth. He almost became a Arthur Hill. Arthur Will. So he almost became an Arthur Will, a Paul C. Barth, and a Philip Tompert. But he was able to not get kicked out of office. So William B. Stansbury hangs on the office, right? William B. Stansbury, mayor of Louisville, 77 to 82. So there's a firefighter strike happening in 78. He becomes unpopular then. Then he becomes the object of an impeachment attempt the next year. William B. Stansbury and his mother, Eileen Stansbury, were killed on April 4th, 1985, 3 years after I was born, crossing the 1900 block of Bardstown Road in Louisville on their way to church. On their way to church. So don't drive to church. You don't have any, you're not chancing anything if you don't drive to church. What's the point of going to church? If everybody wasn't insane and brainwashed there, people was just like, hey, let's hang out and talk about things, church would be cool. But instead, it's all about God and Jesus, and it's all real, and we swear it's real. We've got all these buildings and shit, and everybody else says that it's real, so it must be real. It must actually be happening, right? So he dies. His wife was also injured while they were going to church. Stansbury was interred Calvary Cemetery, Newburgh Road, Louisville. And then you also have the William B. Stansbury Park at the intersection of South 3rd and Eastern Parkway, named in his honor. So the William B. Stansbury Park is named after him. He did nothing. He did nothing. This talks about absolutely nothing. So this motherfucker is just as unaccomplished as anybody else. He didn't get impeached, so he didn't get the legacy of being burnt and doing nothing, but what did he do? The only fucking thing they mentioned is that there was a firefighter strike in 78 and become unpopular for that, so I guess he was against the firefighters, he was against working class people, he was against firefighter people who put out the fires, and then he's the object of an impeachment attempt. So that was it. There's a firefighter strike, they try to kick him out of office, and then 3 years later he's just fucking sitting in the mayor's office holding his dick in his hand, not doing shit. William Stansbury. There's another article about him dying here. It's pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's Eileen, his mother, going to church, struck by a car. The wife was injured. Mr. Stansbury, a Democrat, served as mayor from 77 to 82, 2 terms as an alderman. He's widely criticized actions in a firefighter strike in 78 and was the object of an impeachment effort arising out of an intra-party feud. After leaving office, Mr. Stansbury, who was an Army Air Corps pilot in World War II, returned to the practice of law. So yeah, we learned nothing, right, from these articles. So let's take a look at 1978 firefighter strike. 1978 firefighter strike, Louisville. And we got some pages here. The Encyclopedia of Louisville, Memphis Police and Firefighter Strike, which isn't us. But you have the Encyclopedia of Louisville, which actually I have one. Summary by year, Louisville Fire, LFD history, William Stansbury. Okay, so here's a couple things. Let's see. Actually, the Louisville firemen in the strike. Yeah, okay, so 1978. Let's just talk about this fucking strike. So William B. Stansbury, we're going to give him this whole fucking 15 minutes. So William B. Stansbury, he's, he dies in a fucking accident, which is sad. It's a sad ending. He basically dies right afterwards, so you can't really hate the man too much. William Brown Stansbury, and actually they got a lot of information here. So let's just start with his fucking mayorship, okay? So he becomes mayor, right? He ran against Alderman Crichton Merson in the Democratic Party primary, defeated him by more than 3,000 votes. It was the victory for the traditional elements of the party. Stansbury easily defeated the Republican Russ Maple in the general election. So they're saying it's going backwards. That's what this Democrat is. So William Brown Stansbury's administration was embroiled in controversy when Louisville firefighters went on strike in July 1978. Stansbury claimed he was out of town on business in Atlanta. So, oh shit, I'm in Atlanta, I'm on business, I can't deal with your strike. Courier-Journal later discovered that Stansbury had been in New Orleans with his administrative assistant, Mary Ellen Farmer, and another couple. The incident prompted the Board of Aldermen to start impeachment proceedings. I don't know why, because he lied, I guess, because he's like fucking Mary Ellen Farmer. Mary Ellen Farmer and William Brown Stansbury's in New Orleans, and they tried to impeach him over this. Months later, Stansbury was involved in another controversy considered campaign fundraising. Cecil Randy Pezzerazzi, a city official, pleaded guilty to extorting $16,000 from local businessmen. Federal investigators claimed that some of the money had been contributed to Stansbury's mayoral campaign and to Stansbury personally. So Cecil Randall Pezzerazzi pleaded guilty to extorting $16,000 from local businessmen. He's extorting motherfuckers. William Brown Stansbury, they said that the election was like a call to back in the day. So William Brown Stansbury is called to testify before the federal grand jury. He cited the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination when questioned about the money. He was not charged in the incident, but it only added to the alderman's quest to impeach him. Many of Stansbury's political foes and supporters alike urged him to step down as mayor. The County Democratic Party Executive Committee, which he had headed, voted to ask him to quit. The aldermen discontinued their impeachment proceedings. Shit. After the state court of appeals denied them the power to subpoena witnesses. So they couldn't impeach the guy because they couldn't subpoena any witnesses. They couldn't prove that he did something wrong. I don't even know what the fuck he was being impeached for. He was out of the fucking town, and then he was in some other town, so he lied about something. I don't even know what, that's not a crime. Like, he just didn't want to deal with it, right? He was like, they're on strike, well, I'm not in town, so I can't deal with it. I don't understand. William Brown Stansbury granted few interviews, limited his public speaking engagements, and deferred most questions about policy to his aide. Most of the major accomplishments during Stansbury's tenure as mayor centered on downtown development, the Louisville Galleria, the Broadway Renaissance, the Seelbach Hotel renovation, the Kentucky Center for the Arts took off during his administration. So that's something, the Kentucky Center for the Arts, okay? He helped make some of these places a little bit better. The team affiliated with the St. Louis Cardinals began play in 1982. So he also was instrumental in getting a minor league baseball team, the Louisville Redbirds, to come to Louisville. Stansbury is a member of the Jefferson County Probate Commission and a probate judge. It doesn't really say much of what he did, so I guess that's the end of his legacy, right? Then he dies in a car wreck. His first marriage ends, which is no surprise. He's in New Orleans with his assistant with another couple. So William B. Stansbury, 77 to 82, Louisville Mayor.